If someone had told me a year ago that my life was about to fall apart, I would have smiled politely and gone back to arranging throw pillows on our perfect beige couch. That was my thing, making everything feel put together. 33, I thought I had it all. A devoted husband who left little notes in my lunchbox. Cozy home filled with framed memories. And a younger sister who called me her best friend. Life wasn't a fairy tale, but it was mine, and it felt safe. Daniel and I had been married for 8 years. He was the calm to my fire, the logic to my heart. An architect with a love for old buildings and morning coffee, he'd always made me feel like I was the smartest woman in the room. We had our routines, grocery trips every Saturday, game nights on Wednesdays, and spontaneous road trips whenever life felt too dull. Rachel, my younger sister by 6 years, had recently moved back to the city after a rough breakup. She was vibrant, unpredictable, and still figuring life out. She moved in temporarily with our parents but spent most weekends with us. I welcomed her like I always did, with open arms and extra dessert. I remember one particular evening so vividly it hurts. We were all curled up on the couch, Daniel in the middle, Rachel on one side, me on the other. Some cheesy romantic movie played in the background, but I wasn't watching. I was watching them laugh at the same moment, eyes lighting up in sync. I smiled. It made me happy to see them get along. I thought, this is how life should feel, full. I remember turning to Daniel and whispering, "I'm glad you and Rachel are close. It means a lot to me." He kissed my forehead and said, "Of course, love. She's family." And just like that, I sealed away any doubt that might have flickered deep inside me. If I had listened to the quiet tension beneath his voice, if I had looked twice at how quickly Rachel looked away, maybe I would have known something was off. But I didn't. 'Cause I believed in what we had. Because when you think you're living the dream, the last thing you expect is to wake up in someone else's nightmare. And yet, mine began slowly, so slowly that I mistook betrayal for coincidence and silence for peace. The signs weren't loud. They were subtle, almost polite. Daniel started working late. First, it was just once or twice a week. A new client, a tight deadline, city permits. I understood. Architecture wasn't a 9-to-5 kind of job. "Don't wait up," he'd text, usually around 6:43 p.m., always so specific. I found comfort in his routines. But then there was the night he didn't come home until nearly midnight, and I noticed he'd shaved. Daniel never shaved midweek. Till I told myself it was stress. Maybe he just wanted to look sharp for the firm's new investors. Maybe I was being paranoid. Then Rachel started acting strange. She stopped crashing at our place on weekends, claiming she needed space. When she did come by, her visits were shorter and she was always fidgeting. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Her jokes about Daniel faded into awkward silences. One Sunday, we were at Mom and Dad's for brunch. Everyone was laughing at some ridiculous story from our childhood, and I noticed Rachel staring at Daniel. Not admiring. Not casual. Lingering. When she caught me looking, she laughed too loudly and excused herself to the bathroom. I followed her. Not intentionally. I just needed water. But as I walked past the cracked bathroom door, I heard her whispering, breathless, "No, I can't keep doing this. She's right outside." My stomach dropped. She came out seconds later, startled. Her smile was stiff. "Oh, didn't know you were there." I nodded, pretending I hadn't heard anything. Pretending was easier than knowing. That night, I lay in bed next to Daniel, listening to the rhythm of his breathing. I wanted to reach for his hand, to feel the man I loved beside me. But something stopped me. I turned my back instead. And that silence between us, the silence I once called comfort, suddenly felt like distance. The next morning, I found one of Rachel's earrings under our living room couch. A gold stud I remembered helping her pick out last Christmas. She hadn't been over in nearly 3 weeks. I held it in my hand, frozen. I wanted to believe she must have lost it ages ago. That it just rolled there somehow. Maybe during movie night. Maybe I vacuumed around it 100 times without seeing it. Or maybe I had started to bury what I wasn't ready to face. I placed the earring in my jewelry box, right next to the ring Daniel gave me when he promised, forever. Cracks were growing. I just didn't know how deep they already ran. Until I opened the wrong door at the wrong time. It was a Saturday afternoon when it happened. I was supposed to be away for the weekend. My best friend Olivia had planned a girls' retreat in the mountains. But a migraine hit me halfway there and I decided to turn back. I didn't tell Daniel. I figured I'd surprise him. Maybe we'd watch a movie, order Thai, fall asleep early. Quiet evening like old times. I still remember turning the key in the front door, the faint scent of Rachel's perfume hanging in the air. Jasmine and citrus. Too strong to be old. At first, I thought maybe she dropped by to water my plants. Or maybe Daniel had invited her for coffee. I told myself that because I had to. Then I heard it. Laughter. Her voice. His voice. Stares. The laugh wasn't casual, it was soft, private. A shared joke meant for two people who had no idea anyone else was listening. I moved slowly, like I was underwater. My feet on the stairs were silent, but my heartbeat thundered in my ears. The bedroom door was closed. I stood there for 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. I could have turned around. Pretended I never came home. Saved myself. But I didn't. I opened the door. And there they were. Not tangled in some explicit betrayal, but worse, sitting on the edge of our bed, knees touching, foreheads close. Like lovers sharing a moment no one else was meant to witness. Rachel jerked back first. Her eyes widened with panic. Daniel turned slowly, as if waking from a dream. "Emily!" Rachel's voice cracked. I didn't know you were coming back." Daniel stood up too quickly. "This isn't what it looks like." I didn't say a word. I couldn't. Because it looked exactly like what I had feared, and worse, it looked comfortable. Familiar. Like this had been happening, and I had just walked in late. Rachel grabbed her purse and brushed past me, eyes averted. No apology. No explanation. Just guilt and perfume. Daniel reached out, but I stepped back. My voice finally returned, brittle and sharp. "How long?" He blinked. "It's not, we were just talking." "How long, Daniel?" My voice rose, not in volume but weight. Kind of tone that demanded truth or shattered silence. He hesitated. We got too close. A few conversations turned into more. But it was nothing physical. I swear. Nothing physical. As if emotional betrayal was somehow better. As if I hadn't just watched my husband and sister look at each other like they forgot I existed. "You were on our bed," I whispered. "You let her into our space. Our life." He reached for me again. I was confused. "You've been distant, and Rachel." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the moment you hear your husband blame you for turning to your sister, something in you snaps. "Don't you dare finish that sentence." He said nothing. Neither did I. I turned around, walked out the door, and didn't stop until I was back in the car. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, wondering how long I'd been the only one holding on to something already gone. But when the sun came up, I realized I wasn't done yet. I needed answers. I needed the truth, no matter how ugly it was. The next morning, Daniel acted like everything could be fixed with breakfast. He made my favorite, blueberry pancakes with too much syrup, and placed them on the table like some peace offering. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he hadn't shaved. He looked more human than usual, and I hated that it almost made me soften. Almost. "We should talk," he said carefully, sitting across from me. "I know what you saw looked bad, but there's more to it. Rachel, she's been going through a lot." I stared at him, trying to locate the man I married in the wreckage of the one sitting in front of me. So now she's the victim? I asked, voice low. Explain to me how comforting my sister ended up on our bed. He flinched. It was just once. I pushed my plate away. Then why did it look rehearsed? Daniel ran a hand through his hair. We crossed a line. But it wasn't an affair. Not like that. We never, physically. Stop. I stood up. Every time you say it wasn't physical, you make it sound like that's supposed to comfort me. Like betrayal measured in inches hurts less than betrayal measured in time. He didn't reply. He didn't have to. Silence was its own confession. Later that day, my phone rang. It was my mother. Emily, she said gently. Rachel's gone back to Aunt Vera's for a while. She's devastated. I felt something cold slip into my chest. Did she tell you what happened? My mother sighed. She said you misinterpreted something. That she and Daniel have always had a special bond and that maybe you let jealousy get the better of you. I nearly dropped the phone. Jealousy? Of my own husband and my sister? The denial wasn't just in my house, it was in my family. Protecting her. Smoothing over her mess like they always did. Mom, I saw them. On my bed. Looking at each other like I wasn't even real. There was silence. Then her voice, tight and uncertain. Maybe you imagine more than what was really there. You've always been sensitive. And just like that, I was 12 again, trying to explain why Rachel took credit for my science project and being told, let it go. She didn't mean any harm. History wasn't repeating. It had never stopped. That night, I opened my laptop. I started combing through old phone bills, social media posts, even shared photo albums. Little things I'd never questioned before started looking different, filtered, suspicious. There was a dinner 3 months ago where Daniel said he had a meeting. He wasn't in any of the photos I'd seen tagged that night. But Rachel was. At a restaurant downtown. With someone whose hand was just barely visible in the corner of the photo. A man in a gray sweater. Daniel had a gray sweater. It wasn't proof. Not yet. But I was getting closer. Something told me the truth wasn't just under the surface anymore. It was buried. And I was ready to dig. By Monday morning, I had turned into someone I didn't recognize, a woman searching for betrayal like a detective on a crime scene. I combed through Daniel's drawers, scrolled endlessly through Rachel's social media posts, and even searched their email names together in my inbox. Every minute felt like I was unraveling my own life thread by thread. Then I remembered something. Daniel and I shared a cloud account. We rarely used it, but a long time ago he synced his phone there so he wouldn't lose work photos. He probably forgot it even existed. My hands trembled as I logged in. The screen flickered. Then hundreds of thumbnails appeared, photos, screenshots, even short videos. I scrolled past images of blueprints and construction sites until one folder caught my eye. Recents March. Clicked. And there it was. A selfie of Rachel in our bedroom mirror, Daniel's shirt hanging off her shoulder, her hair a mess, and a wine glass in her hand. The timestamp? 2 nights before our anniversary. I couldn't breathe. I clicked again, desperate for it to be some horrible mistake. But the next photo hit harder than any scream ever could. Daniel and Rachel. Sitting on our couch. Her legs tucked under his hand on her knee. Neither of them looking at the camera but at each other. As if nothing else in the world mattered. No guilt. No shame. Just 2 people in love. I sat frozen, staring at the screen. My ears buzzed, my skin went cold, and for the first time in my life, I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. 'Cause this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't emotional confusion. This was a relationship. And it had been going on far longer than they had admitted. I shut the laptop. I wasn't just betrayed, I was replaced. Later that day, I found Daniel in the kitchen, sipping coffee like it was any other day. He turned when he saw me. Hey. I was thinking we should talk again. I've been thinking about what I said. Don't bother, I interrupted. My voice was eerily calm. I saw the photos. His face drained of color. Emily, You lied. You both lied. And you thought I'd just go on baking cookies and hosting game nights while you played house behind my back. He set the mug down hard. It was a mistake. No, Daniel. A mistake is forgetting our anniversary. A mistake is locking your keys in the car. This was a choice. 1,000 little choices that ended with her in our bed. He reached for me, but I stepped away. You don't get to touch me anymore. Truth had finally surfaced. Raw. Unfiltered. And it had no intention of being forgiven. I packed a bag that night. Not because I was weak, but because I knew staying would mean shrinking myself to fit inside someone else's lie. As I closed the door behind me, Daniel whispered, "Please don't leave." I looked back just once. You already did. That was the last thing I said to Daniel before I walked out of the house we built together, the house that now felt like a crime scene decorated in memories. I didn't go to a hotel. I drove for hours until I ended up at Olivia's apartment. She didn't ask questions. She just opened the door, wrapped me in a blanket, and let me fall apart in silence. The next morning, as the sunlight bled through her blinds, something inside me hardened. I had spent the last few days unraveling, grieving, crumbling. Now I wanted something else. I wanted my life back. But not the version Daniel left me with, the fragile, carefully constructed illusion. I wanted the life I was supposed to have. One built on truth, on strength, on me. It started with a list. Step 1, get out of limbo. Step 2, reclaim my dignity. Step 3, rebuild from ground zero. But of course, healing isn't a straight line. Especially not when your family becomes your second battlefield. Because as soon as my parents found out I'd left Daniel, the calls started. "Emily," my mother said, voice strained with worry, "you need to think about this carefully. Marriages go through storms." Storms? Was it a storm when your daughter walked in on her husband emotionally entangled with her sister? "You're defending them?" I asked, barely containing my disbelief. "We're not taking sides," she replied carefully. "Rachel is a part of this family and she's hurting too." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. "You want me to fix what they broke?" "We want peace, Emily." "Then tell your favorite daughter to stay the hell out of my life." I hung up. That night, Olivia and I poured wine and made a bonfire in her tiny backyard. I threw in the last birthday card Rachel gave me, "To the best sister in the world." I watched it burn. "What are you going to do now?" Olivia asked softly. "I'm going to find out who I am without him. Without her. Without anyone who thought I'd just sit down and accept this." And I meant it. I started therapy. I deleted Daniel's number and blocked Rachel on every platform. I went back to work and asked for the promotion I had been too afraid to request for years. They gave it to me. Apparently, I was more competent and more respected than I'd ever believed. One night, as I walked past a boutique window, I caught my reflection. I paused. For the first time in weeks, I didn't look broken. I looked determined. This wasn't just about moving on. This was about rising up. But I knew it wasn't over. Because healing isn't just about closing a chapter. Sometimes you have to go back and burn the whole book. I didn't expect to see Rachel again so soon, especially not at Mom's birthday dinner. I wasn't going to attend at first. But Olivia reminded me, "You're allowed to take up space, Emily. Don't let them make you invisible in your own family." So I went. I wore a black jumpsuit that made me feel powerful, and heels that clicked with every unapologetic step I took. I wasn't there to make peace. I was there to show them I hadn't vanished. The restaurant was cozy, warm, filled with laughter and clinking glasses. Until she walked in. Rachel. Hair curled like always. Lips painted red. That same jasmine citrus perfume clouding the air like smoke from an old fire. She saw me. She smiled. Emily, she said, like we were just sisters who hadn't talked in a while, like she hadn't shattered the very ground I stood on. You look amazing. I blinked. You shouldn't have come. It's Mom's birthday. I had to. You had to? Like you had to take my husband? Table went silent. My mother, clearly shaken, whispered, "Not here." Please. But I didn't lower my voice. Not anymore. Why not here? Why not now? If she can show up like everything's fine, then let's talk about what she did. Rachel's eyes shimmered. Not with guilt. With something else. Nervousness? Or shame? I didn't mean for it to happen, she said quietly. You didn't mean to lie to me? You didn't mean to sit on my bed with my husband and laugh like I didn't exist? Tell me, Rachel, what part of this wasn't intentional? She looked at Mom for help. But even she didn't know what to say anymore. I was lonely, Rachel said, barely above a whisper. He was there. He listened. You always had your career and your schedule. You were always so put together. That stung. Not because it was true, but because it was the excuse she clung to. So because I was strong, you thought I could handle being betrayed? I said. You envied me so much, you decided to destroy me from the inside? Rachel's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't move. I let them fall. Let them stain the designer dress she probably bought with Daniel's help. You broke something, I said softly. And there's no apology big enough to put it back together. Then I turned to the table. If anyone here thinks forgiveness is the same as pretending nothing happened, let me save you the trouble. I'm not that version of Emily anymore. I stood, grabbed my purse, walked out, and this time, no one followed me. But I didn't feel free. That night, the silence screamed louder than any argument ever had. I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by the life I'd tried to rebuild, and yet felt more shattered than ever. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I hesitated, but answered. Emily, it's Daniel. My heart stopped. Please, just hear me out. His voice was low, shaky. Different. There's something you need to know. Something I didn't want to tell you because I was ashamed, but Rachel isn't the only one. I blinked, confused. What do you mean? I whispered. He took a deep breath. Rachel and I, we didn't plan for this. But she's pregnant. It's not mine. Someone else's. She lied to me. Lied to all of us. My head spun. What are you saying? She's been seeing someone else behind our backs. And the man she's involved with, he's someone you'd never expect. I was trembling now, the room tilting. Who? Our father. Everything inside me snapped. The woman who betrayed me. My husband's lies. And now this. The man I called Dad, the man who was supposed to protect me, was part of a secret that shattered every bond one ever trusted. I can't believe this, I said, voice cracking. I don't know what to do. Neither do I, Daniel admitted. But I want to help you. Whatever you decide. I hung up, shaking. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. I had two choices. Pretend none of it was true, try to fix the unfixable, or walk away from everything, family, history, even the love I once believed in. The weight of that choice crushed me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. I just stared at the cracked ceiling, replaying Daniel's words like a cruel echo bouncing inside my mind. Our father. Rachel pregnant with another man's child. My sister's betrayal stretching deeper than I ever imagined. What was left to fight for? That morning, I drove to the old family house, the place where so many of my childhood memories lived, but now also the place where so many lies were buried. I needed answers. Or at least a confrontation. I found my father in his study, pretending like everything was normal. His face paled when he saw me. "Emily," he said quickly, "I don't want to fight." "You don't get to say that," I snapped. "Not when you've been living a double life. Not when my sister's carrying your secret and my husband's been the only one honest enough to tell me." He sighed, defeated. "It wasn't supposed to happen this way. But life doesn't give us neat endings. So what? We're supposed to pretend this is normal? That you're still dad and everything is okay? I'm still your father, Emily. But I'm also a man who made terrible mistakes." Mistakes? I almost laughed, the bitterness thick in my throat. A mistake is forgetting your anniversary. This is destruction. Ruin. And you're acting like it's just a hiccup. He looked away. I felt something cold settle inside me, a final, terrible clarity. I wasn't the only one who'd been betrayed. But I was the only one who had to decide what to do next. "I can't fix this family," I told him, voice steady but hard. "And I'm done pretending it's salvageable." Walking away, I felt the last of my illusions crumble. I had a choice: hold on to the wreckage and drown in the past, or build a new life from the ashes. The hardest choice wasn't what to do, it was having to choose it all. But I had chosen. I was done drowning in the past. The first step was reclaiming myself, one small act of defiance at a time. I started with a fresh apartment, away from the echoes of broken promises. The walls were bare, but to me they were a blank slate, free from lies and whispers. I signed up for yoga classes, forcing myself to slow down and breathe. Every stretch, every pose was a silent promise. I'm here. I'm still standing. Work became my refuge. When I took on a challenging project at the firm, I poured every ounce of my energy into it. I needed proof that I could succeed without Daniel's shadow looming over me. But healing wasn't linear. One afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. "Emily, can we talk? Please." My heart raced. Part of me wanted to slam the phone shut. Another part craved closure. I debated for days before finally replying. "Okay." One coffee. No promises. When we met, Rachel's eyes were tired, sincere. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said. "But I want to explain." "Explain what?" I interrupted. "How you destroyed your own sister's life. How you betrayed family." "I was lost," she admitted. "I made terrible choices. And I want to make things right." Her words stirred something inside me, a flicker of the sister I once loved. I didn't know if I could forgive her yet, but I could listen. Because this journey wasn't just about revenge or pain. It was about finding a way forward. For me. And for the first time in months, I felt a fragile spark of hope. But hope, I soon learned, isn't a gentle flame. It's a storm you have to weather. Rachel and I met again, this time with fewer words and more silence. She was trying. I was trying. But the wounds were too fresh, the betrayals too deep. At work, the promotion I'd fought so hard for came with new responsibilities, and with them, whispers I couldn't ignore. Some colleagues sided with Daniel, some with Rachel. And some just watched, waiting for me to break. One evening, after a grueling day, I found myself standing outside my old house. The one Daniel and I shared. The one filled with memories I wanted to erase but couldn't. I wanted to scream at the walls, to tell them to stop holding on to a past that no longer existed. Instead, I whispered, "This isn't my home anymore." That night, Daniel called. "Emily, can we talk?" "For closure." "For the kids," he said. Kids. I hadn't told anyone, because it felt like another betrayal, another layer of a story I wasn't ready to share. But now it was out. I sat on my couch, heart pounding. "What do you want, Daniel?" "I want to be a part of their lives. I want to try to be better." I closed my eyes, the weight of everything crashing down. I had to decide. Could I trust him again? Could I let him near the family he helped break? I don't know if I can forgive you, I said finally. But I'm willing to try for them. It was the hardest decision I'd made. But maybe, just maybe, it was the start of real healing. But healing isn't a destination. It's a daily choice, a battle between the past and the future. Daniel and I began tentative conversations, slowly rebuilding a fragile bridge, not for me but for the children caught in the crossfire. Every word, every meeting felt like walking on broken glass. Rachel kept her distance, yet every now and then I caught a glimpse of her struggling with her own guilt. She wasn't perfect, but maybe she was trying too. My parents? They remained silent, caught between loyalty and regret. Family dinners became tense performances, and I learned to protect my heart with walls no one could breach. One day, sitting alone in the park, I realized something important. I survived. Not just the betrayal, but the loneliness, the anger, the doubts. I survived the shattering of everything I thought I knew. And from those shards, I was building something new, stronger, wiser, and fiercely my own. I understood now that life wouldn't erase the pain, but it could teach me how to live with it. I didn't need to forget. I just needed to forgive myself, for loving, for trusting, for daring to hope again. As the sun set, painting the sky with hues of gold and pink, I whispered to the wind, I am more than what broke me. And in that moment, I knew the story wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about survival, growth, and the courage to reclaim my own happiness. But reclaiming happiness wasn't a gentle sunrise. It was a wildfire blazing through everything I once thought unbreakable. In the weeks that followed, I faced the hardest truth. Some relationships could never be repaired. Some betrayals leave scars that time alone can't heal. I confronted Daniel one last time. I forgive you, I said, voice steady but fierce. Not because I forget what happened, but because I refuse to carry this poison forever. He nodded, tears glistening. Thank you, Emily. I don't deserve it, but I'm grateful. Rachel chose a different path. She moved far away, seeking her own redemption beyond the rubble she left behind. I wished her no ill will. Sometimes love means letting go. My family remained fractured, but I learned to hold on to the pieces that still fit, the friends who stood by me, the memories that weren't broken, and most importantly, myself. One night, as I looked at the stars, I whispered a promise. I will never let betrayal define me. I will rise, not just survive. The road ahead wasn't smooth. Some days, the pain still stung like fresh wounds. But with every step, I reclaimed my strength. I became more than the woman who found her husband and sister in betrayal. I became the woman who chose herself, who stood tall amidst the ruins, who turned heartbreak into hope. And that, I learned, is the fiercest kind of victory.